Do you think of yourself more as an African than a Jamaican?
Yeah, because one of the main things is that we're Rasta. From you accept Rasta, you become an Ethiopian, which is Africa. Next thing again, the history of Jamaica shows that the Arawak Indian was living there, and it belonged to the Arawak Indian. Now, our history shows that through slave business, black people come out of the Western thing, you know? So we still figure, say, Africa is a root, you know.
You Jamaicans are more African than certain Africans here on the African continent.
Yeah.
I love these Jamaicans because they know the truth and they know where they're from. They understand Africanism, true Pan-Africanism. Jamaicans
that comes from within for the Jamaicans. African unity, Pan-Africanism.
We need look, Jamaicans, you are welcome to your motherland anytime, any day. Even in my house, you are welcome. These Jamaican people are the best when it comes to this, and they show so much support even for Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traore. Yes, the Jamaicans are out here. I saw you guys protesting on the 30th of April in support, in solidarity with Captain Ibrahim Traore.
They say Africa is the motherland, but what if I told you one of the most African countries on earth isn't even on the continent? Welcome to Jamaica, where echoes of African drums still beat in the soul of its people, where the spirit of resistance never died, and where culture has preserved more African traditions than many modern African nations themselves. This isn't just a theory, this is a history, soul, and survival. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about Africa and Jamaica.
Couche Audibodi. Yes guys, in today's video we're talking about Sierra Leone's language, which is called Creole. This is an English-based Creole language spoken throughout Sierra Leone in West Africa. Native to the Sierra Leone Creole people or Creoles, a community of descendants from the freed and enslaved from the West Indies, Canada, the US, the British Empire, all freed enslaved people, the Jamaican Maroons, African Americans, and liberated Africans influenced Creole, but the Jamaican Maroons, Igbo, Yoruba, and Akan liberated Africans were the most influential. Creole is a language on its own and not a pidgin due to it having a fixed grammatical structure and rules. It is also not broken English. Creole's roots include English, Portuguese, French, and a mix of African languages indigenous to Sierra Leone and other places like Nigeria and Ghana. While most of its vocabulary comes from English, its sound system and grammar are closer to that of nearby African languages, in particular Yoruba. It is also very similar to Nigerian Pidgin and Jamaican Patois. Have you heard of the Cromancy language of Jamaica? It is the mother tongue of the Jamaican Maroons. It was used by them to communicate with their African-born ancestors. The Maroons are descendants of enslaved people who escaped to freedom and formed their own independent communities. Cromancy is just one of the languages of Jamaica and is closely related to the Akan language group of Ghana. Cromancy is also similar to the Creole languages spoken in Suriname.
I just want to repeat the question. Are you Jamaican or African? The question in and of itself is inherently flawed and reeks of bad faith. Because one, Jamaica is a country and Africa is a continent. Secondly, when that question, are you Jamaican or are you African, is asked, the question is not about a ancestry, it's about a present day identity. Jamaicans are very much aware and claim their African ancestry. Many claiming the modern state of Ghana, claiming that the majority of enslaved Jamaicans came from the Gold Coast, while others lay claim to the modern state of Nigeria, claiming terms such as Red Igbo and words like Uno being their rationale. And there's even a few who cite Sierra Leone as their ancestral place of origin due to the fact that many enslaved Jamaicans actually were sent back to Sierra Leone and the similarity between Jamaican Patois and Sierra Leone Creole.
So we want to see how Jamaica is more African than other African countries. Number one, African roots planted deep in the Jamaican soil. So Jamaica's African identity didn't arrive yesterday. It was forged in chains, rebellion, and survival. So between the 17th and 19th centuries, hundreds of thousands of enslaved Africans were brought to Jamaica, mainly from West Africa, that is Ghana, Nigeria, and even Congo. And despite brutal oppression, they didn't lose their soil, they preserved it. So we can see it in the African languages, foods, religions, music, resistant movements. They transplanted Africa into Jamaican soil and made it to flourish. So Another thing is the spiritual and religious ties, which are stronger than you think. And there are some words like, for example, not even words, but let's look at Rastafari. The spiritual practices are deeply rooted in African cosmology, especially Akan and Yoruba traditions. So while some African countries have modernized or diluted their traditional beliefs under the weight of colonization and religion, Jamaicans held on, and sometimes underground, sometimes in plain sight. So Rastafari, for instance, is a Pan-African movement that not only praises Ethiopia, but crowns Africa as the promised land. Another thing is music and the language, which was African resurrected, like the reggae, dancehall, and even the drumming. So Jamaican music isn't just a rhythm, it's resistance, storytelling, and ancestral memory. So the offbeat rhythms, the call and response, the chants, this straight out of Western African oral tradition. So even the patois spoken by Jamaicans has unmistakably African linguistic roots, syntax and vocabulary patterns that echo mostly the Igbo, Twi, and even Kikongo. And guess what? Many Jamaicans still unknowingly use African words every single day. Another thing is the cultural consciousness, which is holding the line. So while many African nations adopted Western dress, names, and values after independence, Jamaica chose to amplify its Africanness. Like we can see it in like the dreadlocks, the natural hair movements, Afrocentric names, Pan-African philosophy. So Jamaica has arguably done more to preserve and export African consciousness than many African states through Bob Marley's music, Marcus Garvey's legacy, and even countless grassroots movements. So is Jamaica more African than some African countries? And what I can say is, in many ways, yes, it is. Because Jamaica didn't just survive the transatlantic slave trade, it transformed it into a cultural revolution, a revolution that speaks to every African in Africa or even the diaspora. So this isn't about comparison, it's about recognition. So Jamaica is like Africa's child, but it's also her mirror, and sometimes the reflection is clearer from a distance. So subscribe for more bold cultural commentary that connects the diaspora to the motherland, Africa.